Welcome back to part 2 of my conversation with Sean Murphy. When we left off, we were talking about meth addiction, dopamine, and so we're just going to kind of take it from there. So we're talking about the effects of constant dopamine on the brain and how it can kind of change the way it rewires your experience of reality. One of the questions that some of my listeners had was, do you find that you had to replace that addiction, whether it's meth or another drug, with other stimulus? Did you get equally hyper-focused or obsessed with other activities or things?
I don't know. I think for the first a long time after I went to rehab, which was here in Navarre, Florida, at 12 Oaks. 12 Oaks! And strongly suggest that place. It was a really cool experience. I kind of wish I could go back sometimes because just wearing pajamas and going to meetings and stuff is fun.
You should go back. That would be really cool.
I know,
Maybe
right?
we can give them this podcast or something.
That would be great.
Yeah.
But I was depressed, really bad, where I couldn't get out of bed for a long, long time. And I remember some of my friends in LA bringing my wife, now, she left for a year after I got out of rehab because I was even crazier when I got clean for a while than before. I don't, for whatever reason, because I was dealing with all these emotions and just learning how to live life clean without all meth, which is a crazy drug. I mean, I don't know what the statistic is for getting off of it, but it can't be good.
No, I think it's pretty gnarly. When I talk to people
2%, 3%,
yeah,
maybe?
I think it's heroin and meth are kind of up there. One of the questions someone had was was there a gateway drug? Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I think so. Growing up, I think alcohol was always I'm an alcoholic. And even though I'm a drug addict, I take drugs alcoholically, and that's kind of the way I was taught in the program. It's like a lot of people identify, well, I don't do alcohol, I do meth. Well, I take meth alcoholically. And
okay.
So I grew up doing, binging cocaine and ecstasy, as like normal people, like partying on the weekends.
Yeah, totally normal.
And
little coke, little ecstasy. Completely ecstasy. Norm.
At some point in time,
that's my 4 o'clock today. Actually.
Yeah, a little pick me up bump, a little key bump. Got another podcast coming in.
Oh my god!
But at some point in time, I got put on phentermine, which is a weight loss drug, because of attention. I'm so ADD and depressed. I'm really high and I'm really low, and I like that. But at some point in time, we were going to try something where it would bring me to the center. Try it. So they put me on this phentermine, which is basically just speed, and I lost a bunch of weight, and I liked it. And then that I got off of it, and I switched to Adderall. Adderall. But when I came back to check up with my doctor and she saw orange rings around my nose, she was like, wait a minute, dude. This is no bueno. You're not supposed to be snorting it.
Busted.
But busted, totally. But I would say Adderall is the gateway to meth.
It's so funny that you say that, because when I was kind of researching this, I'm not pronouncing this right, but desoxin is an ADD drug that is meth.
It's all meth.
Isn't that crazy?
Adderall is it's exactly the same shit as meth. It just doesn't burn as much when it goes up your nose.
Well, most people don't take it up their nose, to be fair.
But then, I started dating a dancer.
Yeah.
That's from Sammy's. And she, I had done meth plenty in the past, but she did good meth, like the real good stuff. She smoked it. And so with her, I started doing it more. And I don't know. That's when it kind of spun out of control for a while.
So Sammy's, that was here. So where was the gay porn? Because that was in San Francisco.
That was in San Francisco. So I lived above a gay porn studio. I had a loft in South of Market, which is right by downtown, and I had this really great loft above a gay porn studio. And it was it was called Falcon Studios for all my gay people out there, you know Falcon Studios, Rough Trade, still around. And Daddy L, he runs the place. And we became friends. And he knew I was a photographer. And so occasionally you'd wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee and look out your window in my room and go, Sean, come over here. There'd be like 3 dudes blowing each other right up downstairs in the foyer or whatever.
Wow.
And so he's like,
best part of waking up
is, yeah, totally. And so he's like, you know, if you ever want to shoot a scene or, you know, whatever. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'll do whatever. Nothing phases me. I mean, I'm in the gay world, even though I'm just only the straight guy in the gay world. I get it, and nothing's going to phase me. Anyway, I got a little bit tinkered with that. Shot for him a little bit and did meth with him. But then as I was moving to LA, he's like, if you want me to make a couple of calls for you in LA, I can get you connected over there. So he did. And I got connected with, I won't say names, but I was with a straight porn company for a couple of years in Los Angeles when I first moved there. So that's kind of how that segued. And oddly enough, in that straight porn, I met a lot of musicians, big musicians that I also won't name, but they're like very popular bands. They would all hang out at these, it was gonzo porn. So it was like we'd throw a party and everyone would just kind of have sex everywhere. And there was always bands there. Huh. And yeah.
Is that like in the photography world, have many photographers done that? No, okay. Just curious. I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how normal is that? Okay. So that's not typical. So so your stories still stand out among your photographer peers.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. So back to Meth, Sammy's, and then rehab happened.
So I got married. I married that girlfriend that I had. She was my best friend since, she's a great woman. We were best friends since 7th grade. She was later my girlfriend in Boston. She followed me. We went with each other to San Francisco, to LA. We had 3 kids with her, and then made it all the way. Pushed away all the way down to 2008. We were separated. I kind of blew the marriage dissipated. I take all the credit for that. But in 2008, everything kind of came crashing down. I met Rafi, who she was in a band. She's my wife now. She was in a band that I shot. Really good band called.
I saw the pictures.
Cassia. Yeah, she was badass. So I met her, and in 2008, I could sense that an intervention. It was either an intervention was coming, or just everyone was going to abandon me. So I just called 12 before someone made the decision for me. I was like, I'll go to 12 Oaks, and I paid cash. I had some money at the time, and I just paid them cash and went to 12 Oaks.
Wow, so you did it yourself. That's okay. So I see like this pattern in your life and like where it goes in the direction. So correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you don't really force anything.
Yeah, I think I do. I think I used to do it a lot. I think I was with that person when I was a kid or growing up. I was like, if I wanted something, nothing was going to stand in my way, and I would force those things to happen. And as I got older, and what I learned in AA, which I think is I do subconsciously, I probably still try to force things, but it's known as self-will run riot in the program, which means you're just in self-will, you're trying to force things to happen. And yeah, I can make all kind of shit happen, but I try to just let it happen. I do the footwork, and then the things will just happen the way they're supposed to happen. As if I start forcing shit to happen, I can probably make that same thing happen, but it won't be the same outcome because it's formulated in a different way. Does that make sense?
I think so. So you're saying you kind of force yourself to be prepared. And then when the opportunity comes, you flow with it.
Yeah, there's the whole thing, which is, I'm not a God person, but in the program, it's like God's will. And there's all this, I go back and forth. It's like, the way I've figured it out is, I just kind of, I keep my side of the street clean best I can. Mm-hmm. And Rafi's looking at me. I'm not perfect at this, by the way, but I'm way better than I used to be. And I know what to do. So if I get off the rails, oftentimes Rafi will go, you might want to you want to take a look at that, or you might need to call another alcoholic, or maybe we should, you know, maybe it's time to go to a meeting, or reach out, or, you know, there's a lot of things I can do, but,
so you checked yourself into rehab.
I'm prepared. Yeah. So I checked myself into rehab. I did rehab. I got out. She left for a year because I was crazy. I relapsed after 8 months, and then went to a couple sober living houses.
How was that?
Gnarly. The one that got me where I am today was in Chatsworth, and it was literally an abandoned crack house with a horse living in the backyard and a pit bull. And it was me, this Irish dude, Mike, that was my sponsor, and some older crackhead. We were the founders of this place. And I lived in the garage, and there was a horse that would come. We'd have meetings, and this horse would stick. Remember that, Rafi? This horse would just come in the house, and it would just sit in the in the AA meeting, and we would do meetings, and we would just pull homeless dudes off the street or dudes that got out of prison, and we would 12-step them, and we would hang out, and became like this iconic place that saved a lot of lives, and it's still to this day. It's called Plan C, and it's in Chatsworth, and it set the tone for this whole kind of way of getting clean and sober in the valley of Los Angeles, and pretty neat place.
That's really cool.
So that was my last. I did 5 months in there approximately, right? No, 3 months. It was a long time. I was there for a while.
And you just had like a hammock or
a cot, like a little shitty bed.
I mean, it kind of sounds like made up. Like this is our sober house, but it not saying you're making it up, but like it doesn't sound very official. Like
it wasn't. It wasn't. There was no rule. It was like it was just a house, and this dude's like, "I'm gonna start a sober living house." Okay, and there was just it looked crazy,
and that worked for you.
I mean, my kids would come and hang out there too. Like my kids are 20 and 19 now. They spent a lot of time at the sober living house, and they remember all that shit. I was looking at pictures the other day. I was like, I can't believe I brought them around there. But at the same time, they got to see a lot of cool stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely an experience that I'm sure their peers can probably not, say that they experienced. Speaking of that, when you've learned all this stuff about yourself, about other people, about being prepared but not forcing things to happen, letting them happen. When you think about like characteristics that you want your sons to have, character traits, what kind of things come to mind that you would want them to have based on your personal life experiences?
I mean, I wasn't a happy kid growing up. My dad wasn't an amazing person as a dad. He was a father, but he wasn't a dad. He was a real, it was gnarly. And so I want them to be happy. I always tell them, it's like, a lot of parents are really hard on their kids about you got to go to school, got to go to college, you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm like, you don't have to do anything. I didn't do any of those things. You just be happy. If you're happy and you're a nice person, then that's enough for me.
Yeah.
And life is long if you don't fuck it up. So you have plenty of time to figure it out. And I think they don't know it yet, but they know a lot more than they think they do. Especially my son Tripp was in the AmeriCorps last year, and he would come home and he's like, "Holy shit, Dad! Like I was the only kid there that knew how to put a boat on a hitch or cut a tree down or do this or do that." And I'm like, because they had to do those things, change a tire. Because growing up, like that was a big thing for me, as a family. Rafi and I would take them on road trips every summer, and they would have to do things, and it just kind of, I think it's instilled in them, and to think for themselves, and be independent, but mainly just be happy. If their life is weird right now, who knows how long it's going to last? Who knows what's going to happen? So happiness is the hardest thing to accomplish. So
right now, yeah.
I think any time.
Yeah.
I mean, being a kid at any time in the world, it's hard. No matter if it's the 50s, 60s, now it's harder, I think. So whatever that means, but that's my biggest thing.
No, that's good.
And that they don't hate me.
Well, that's
because I'm worried, and Rafi and I talk a lot about this, because I want them to not hate me. I think I'm a great dad, but I think I wasn't. I think I don't know that they know all the things that I did. They know because I tell them and they hear the stories, but I don't know if they remember it, but.
And that's not the dad that they know right now.
No.
And so to them, it could be kind of disconnected like a fairy tale.
Maybe.
But maybe that's good because they see the filtered part of that, the part that, got polished and.
Maybe. But the downside is like if I tell them, dude, you shouldn't do this or whatever. They're like, really, Dad?
That is the downside. When you think about other people outside of your kids, what do you wish people would get? Like, what mistakes do you see people making a lot that you wish you could just wave a magic wand and that they would suddenly...
Other people making mistakes?
Yeah.
I don't know. I like to walk into Starbucks and stores and think I can run their shit more efficiently than they're running it. Like I'm that kind of person, like restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
But as people, I mean, we're all everyone's kind of has their kookiness. So I think I don't know. That's a weird question. I can say a lot of random. I'm cynical a little bit.
I can tell you have like 5 thoughts at once right now.
I do. I have, but none of them would be right. It'd just be me nitpicking people.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you say that because when we were shooting that day and I was asking you about like, you said, oh yeah, sometimes I see these people near me that, are dealing drugs, doing drugs or whatever. And I said, doesn't that like bother you? Don't you want to go and like save them? And you had the funniest, to me, the most unexpected response of like, when they're ready, they're ready.
Oh yeah.
And so it's interesting because your response to like, what do you wish people would get? Like, if you ask me that, I got lists and I will tell you, but you are more skilled in that way that you're like, nope, this is where people are at and I accept that and here's my story. So there's that. And then you just let them accept whatever part of your story that they are ready to accept and whatever part of their story that they choose to make of it. And I think that's really cool. And I guess I wish I got that. I wish you could wave a magic wand on my head and I could be like that. But
I mean, it's easy to see people in the wild and that guy's an asshole. That guy's driving too fast. He's driving too slow. He's doing this. That person, why are they so stupid? Why are they always on their phone?
Yeah.
Why can't they get off social media? Why do they think they know everything? I mean, I think we're all guilty of things, but if I have the only thing I have power of is the way I react to people, and I can't change the way people are. And even though sometimes you want to, and you can look at someone and go, I really know what they need to do, what can help them. But I remember being a drug addict and nobody was going to tell me shit until I finally was ready for whatever that reason was. So yeah, that's a tough question. But and who I choose to hang out with, because I have a lot of friends and often new people come into the fold, and in my mind I'm thinking, I don't have time for you. Or as a new friend, I'll have to get rid of somebody. We'll have to call them.
Yeah, seats taken. Seats taken. Yeah.
Check back on me next month. Maybe someone will fuck up and they'll be out.
That's funny. That's kind of an introvert thing.
What?
Seats taken.
Is it?
Well, yeah, totally.
I got a lot of seats, though. It's a big bus.
So you're just an extrovert with boundaries?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a couple, as we wrap up, I have a couple of listener questions that I thought it would be okay to ask. Let's see. Dean Willis, whose family actually runs a counseling center here, he wants to know how did you get clean? Which you kind of shared, but you said you relapsed and then you were in the sober living house. But when somebody directly asks you, how did you get clean, what comes to mind?
I think it's a pretty simple question because I tried for 11 years to get sober. I was the guy every meeting raising my hand as a newcomer, and everybody's just like, fuck, here we go again. There's Sean taking a newcomer chip every 30 days. And I was trying to do it I tried to do it every way but the right way, which for me was the 12 steps. And everyone's like, do you have a sponsor? Do you have a book? Have you done the 12 steps? And I was like, fuck, yeah, I have a book, but I've never looked in it. And I have a sponsor, but he doesn't really tell me what to do. We just hang out, and I check in with him every day, but he doesn't. So for me, my sponsor, the way that I was taught is like, we do the steps and we do them fucking quick. And he would always say, Murphy, we gotta get you through these steps because they're dropping like flies out there, you know? And I'm like, and that resonated with me. I'm like, okay. And so when I did the 12 steps, I realized, well, this is just a book for living. Like you could read this AA book and not even have an alcohol problem and help your ass out. Like it's just a simple way of figuring out, you know, and taking a look at myself and figuring out I'm an alcoholic, not because I like the taste of alcohol. Well, I developed that, but I don't do drugs and drink because I like to be fucked up all the time. I do them because I'm fucked up, because I'm damaged. And when I fix that damage, then the need for the drugs and alcohol go away. And there's a little thing in the book where he points out the beginning of the book to me, which fucking changed it all. And I'm like, why did this take 11 years? He looked at me in a meeting on the Silverling High School. When I first met him, he goes, have you done the step work? And I said, nope. And he goes, come outside. I'm gonna take you through the doctor's opinion. And I was like, okay. I mean, how can you say no? You're like, okay, fuck it. I guess this is what we're doing. And he pointed out, like in page right in the beginning, hundreds of people, men and women, will recover with. I don't know the exact quote. You will recover. I never heard that. You will recover from drugs and alcohol. Not you just are always. I'm a recovering addict. Yeah. It's like you're gonna fucking recover if you do 1 through 12. And if you do 10, 11, and 12 every day, you'll stay recovered. But if you stop doing those things, you can unrecover. So I was like, that's pretty badass. And he goes, Murphy, you do these steps, you're going to come move in with me in this other house, and it's going to be quick. 1 month, we're going to have you out of there, and if it doesn't work for you, you can go right back to the meth and the strippers and the hookers. And I was like, that sounds like fuck it. I'm going to do that. Because then if I try and it doesn't work, then I can tell everybody I tried, and fuck it, I'm just going to succumb to I'll just be an addict, and that'll just be the way that I am. And it worked immediately. And then I'm like, what day is it where I'm going to stop waking up wanting to chug vodka every day and wanting to do meth? And he's like, it just happens. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And then just one day, I was like, fuck, man, I haven't thought about meth in like a few days. Huh. Like, it just happened, and it was just I'm with my wife frequently, and she likes to drink red wine. Mm-hmm. That was my get down. At the end, it was Chardonnay and meth. That was my get down. It was a weird combo.
That is.
And I'd keep it.
That's like bougie and redneck together.
I would keep it in the freezer where it was just on the verge of freezing, and that would like take the edge off this kind of like slushy of Chardonnay. Woodbridge to be exact. But if I even smell wine or like nothing looks good to me ever. I can be on Crab Island. I can go I've traveled the world by myself, which used to be my ticket. Like I can fucking travel. No one will know. I'll go smoke opium in Lebanon and no one's going to know that I was doing this shit. But now I try. The thought doesn't cross my mind no matter where I go. It's pretty awesome. Wow. And I can't know that that's everyone's case, but for me, it's been 9 years, and
that's amazing.
It worked for me.
So if people, do you have any, before we wrap up, do you have any, thoughts you want to leave us with or advice to others with family members in the spot where you're at? Or a spot where you were?
Again, back to like they're going to quit when they're ready kind of thing. I mean, it's unfortunate. I see a lot of people. I mean, I think everywhere people struggle. Here it seems pretty heavy. Like it seems like an unusual amount of people. Every family that I meet seems to have somebody who's got some kind of thing going on. And honestly, al-anon, that Rafi, she's shaking her head back there. Al-anon is great.
What's al-anon?
Al-anon is the kind of the yin and yang to AA, and al-anon is where you go when you have family members that are alcoholics or drug addicts, and they also have a 12-step program, and you get a sponsor, and that teaches you how not to be codependent and all up the addict's ass and how you're trying to fix them, and you're fucked up by living with an addict because they've trained you to be a certain way because they're an alcoholic or they're an ex, and now you have to, you know, your whole life is changed because of how, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a great program for people suffering that live with addicts and alcoholics. That would be my number one suggestion.
That's good.
Or call me. My number's
Well, that's a perfect segue. Where can people find you online? Where can they see your work and just be in touch with all the cool stuff you have going on?
Well, I get a lot of, whether it's a photography question or a drug question or any question, you can instant message me on Instagram at Murphy Photo. My website is SeanMurphyPhoto.com. I don't really have anything to push.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. You're just an interesting person to follow, so I'm sure people will be curious.
But yeah, I always love talking about sobriety and photography.
Well, when we did that, mission accomplished. This was awesome. Thank you so much. That's a wrap.
Thank you for having me.